Hey everyone, and welcome to the Wolfpacker Show. My name's Ethan McDowell. I'm your host, and I am joined, as I always am, by Noah Fleischman. We're going to dive all the way into this matchup with Marshall. It was a win that went in a billion different directions. Most of them I didn't expect. Most of them Noah didn't expect. It was a weird football game. But NC State leaves with a 48-41 win, finishing off its non-conference schedule and catapulting this team into an ACC schedule that holds a lot of intrigue based on what we saw yesterday. Before we get into it all, just a quick housekeeping note. We're both writers for the Wolfpacker.com. That is NC State's site on the On3 network. It is only $1 to subscribe to the premium side of our site. That is access to recruiting scoops, team analysis for football and women's and men's basketball all year around for $1. Go check it out. We've already posted a few stories from the game this morning. We posted a bunch of content last night, and including some recruiting info on a 4-star in-state recruit who visited another school yesterday. So go check that out. All the latest info. It's $1. Doesn't get cheaper from that, and you get access to our message board as well, so you can vent about a loss, celebrate a win with a pretty awesome community of Wolfpack fans. All right, let's dive into this, Noah. NC State, starts a little rocky. MJ Morse throws an early interception. Marshall jumps out to an early lead. But the Wolfpack hung in there. They rallied, and they strung together what we were hoping we would see from this team. And, of course, they leave with a win and extend their record to 4-2 on the season, which looks a heck of a lot different than 3-3 as you head into the next matchup against Duke. Noah, your initial thoughts on the win over Marshall?
It was a good win. I think, anytime a team can get a win, 48-41, it obviously is not the best, result defensively, giving up 41 points, but the offense did enough and the defense also did enough. It generated, turnovers, and we're able to get the ball back in the offensive hands. MJ Morris, he started off struggled, right? First 7 passes, 2 interceptions, and a pick six was one of them. Not great. Rebounded really well after that. Had 6 or 7 straight completions, a couple touchdowns, got rolling, and really started playing well. So I think he's going to take time to settle in. His first game playing in almost a year to the day. So I think that was something there. And then the defense did what they needed to do. Peyton Wilson, obviously, 14 total tackles, did his thing. And then the rest of the supporting cast was there to make things happen. Overall, they come out with a win against Marshall, who's undefeated, had a win over Virginia Tech this year. So it's not a bad Marshall team you're playing. And now they can turn their sights to Duke, a big game, I'm sure we'll talk about later. But, it's a good way to get back in the win column. They're 4-2, as you said, only 2 wins away from bowl eligibility now. That is really big with what this last 6-game stretch is going to look like. So overall, I think they did what they could ask for. Probably want to clean up some of MJ Morris's play. Honestly, though, 2 of those interceptions, not his fault. The one off the hands of Kevin Concepcion. The other one, a quick screen that the defensive back ran the whole way. I mean, it's what it is. So they'll move on with the win. He'll learn from it. He's a sophomore. He's really young. And every game he's going to learn. This is only, start number 3. So plenty of room to grow there. But overall, good win for the Wolfpack.
Yeah, and when you start an underclassman quarterback, you kind of expect like a little bit of jitters, maybe some like nervous mistakes. I wouldn't really classify MJ's mistakes as nervous mistakes in this game. He, I wouldn't even put the third interception on him. It looked like the ball was tipped at the line of scrimmage, which that it is what it is. He had the receiver. It's just the ball ended up sailing. But the screen pass is one you probably don't throw. That's one that a veteran quarterback recognizes that, that screen's getting blown up, and he just chucks it out of bounds. But MJ threw it, went to the house. It is what it is. The first one was dropped. So you take that out, and you're looking at it, and you're like, dang, that's a pretty dang good stat line. It is clear why NC State decided to turn to Morris to inject life into this offense, right? He adds a certain level of explosiveness to the Wolfpack that was just not in this unit before. He showed off some really, really impressive composure. He stood in the pocket, waited for plays to develop, and found receivers down the field with the beautiful deep ball that we talked so much about in the week leading up to this game. He unlocked Trent Penix. Penix broke off. I believe he surpassed his season total for passing yards in this game and finished with a few three catches for 99 yards, a long of 62, and a couple of scores. And the thing that really stood out to me is while the defense, it allowed 41 points. That's less than ideal, right? But it was dealing with short fields for a lot of the game, and when it did make plays, NC State's offense capitalized off of those 3 turnovers, the 2 interceptions and a fumble that or 2 fumbles and an interception, my bad, that NC State forced. You had on one of them, they immediately call a shot play and get Trent Penix wide open and find him for a touchdown. That's the capitalizing off of others' mistakes that you need to have in this offense, because even when the defense plays bad, it's going to make plays like that and give the offense opportunities to keep itself in the game. And MJ Morse did that. He did a good job, I thought, overall. I'm really encouraged by what he brings to this team. And I think we'd be remiss not to have a Kevin Concepcion discussion because, man, Doran said, he had 3 targets against Louisville. That can't happen. It just can't. He on his radio show earlier in the week, he said he was open 13 times. And then 13 times equals 3 targets. That math doesn't work out for a win. So they fixed that. They threw to him 16 times. A lot of that was on pop passes, but hey, you got to get the ball in his hands, and it worked. He is a tough runner. I mean, he's a freshman, 6 foot tall freshman wide receiver, and he runs like he's a 5th-year senior running back. He's just so hard to tackle. The 87 yards after the catch, that's ridiculous. Two scores. He excelled in those pop passes, but his first touchdown was also just a beautiful route where just a quick post. They found MJ found the little space in between the safety and the cornerback to make that happen. But he's just so good. He's the best receiver on this team by a mile, and I'm glad that NC State threw to him enough to reflect that, and he finished with 3 times as many targets as any other Wolfpack receiver, in part because of those pop passes. But kind of going off of that, Noah, I know you wrote a story on it last night. The running game, it showed some spark. Well, the downfield passing kind of opened things up. Michael Allen was able to break off that explosive touchdown, and then you had KC on those pop passes, which was basically a rushing attack. Because Noah, what did you see from the Wolfpack's running game that kind of helped them to take it to another level on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, they finally got going. We talked about, the opening downfield opens up a lot of running lanes because they're starting to drop more guys in coverage and not predicting, you're going to run the ball every time. Michael Allen found some holes and really showed his burst, which I thought was good. He's a guy that showed it a little bit this year, but hasn't done it consistently, whether or not it's them not using it or whatever it is. Breaks off a couple of runs, had his first touchdown of the year. Big run there. And then, Delbert Mims, he played well too. And, he showed his, ability to break off a big run. He had an 18-yard run for a touchdown, his longest touchdown run of the year. His first couple of touchdowns were 1 or 2 yard runs, and it was just back and forth like that. So that was exciting, and I think that will help moving forward, taking pressure off of MJ Morris. As Dave Dorn said, it's a mental break for a quarterback to just turn around and hand the ball off and not have to worry about reading coverage and doing that. If the running game is going, you can do that more, and the quarterback does not have a lot of his play, and it works well. So overall, good thing to see from them. You can call KC a running back, I guess, because they used him like one basically the entire game, even though they're technically passes. Doran said they could have handed the ball off, but the reason why they're doing a pop pass is if they do drop it, it's an incomplete pass and move on. That happened with Julian Gray, which people thought was a fumble at first, and it was fine. So that's why they were doing that way. But overall, good showing from the running back room, which hadn't gotten going basically the whole year. Now Kendrick Raphael seems to be, on his way back, probably for Duke, which will be big and help, even make this running back room even more explosive. Just adding that kind of back who can really, turn the Jets on when he gets an open field.
Yeah, and if you as the listener have been listening to our podcasts for the past month. You've been hearing us talking about Michael Allen, and we're just like, man, this explosive play is coming. I know that it hasn't come yet, but like, hey, he's primed for a breakout, and he did that with that 37-yard rush where he just ran away, no one could touch him. So far this season, he has 3 games where he's averaging 7.5 yards per attempt or more this year. He is a productive running back. For some reason, they just haven't been able to establish a real rhythm with him. It'll be interesting to see how that develops as the season goes on, because I think I can speak for both of us, Noah, when I said we were concerned about the rushing attack coming into Saturday. You lose Brennan Armstrong, and shoot, he's your leading rusher. So, and you're not going to run MJ Morris like that. So it was good to see Michael Allen step up. Delbert Mims, he's scored another touchdown. Lucky number 6, I believe. And I mean, shoot, he even showed off some runs that showed he's a little more than just the goal line back. He was shifty against Marshall. So that's good to see. You add Kendrick Raphael, he's maybe the most explosive out of this group, and that'd be an interesting rotation to see against Duke, which obviously has a very, very stout defense. All right, let's touch on the defense just a little more, because obviously you see the box score. You're like, oh, whoa, 41 points? The same amount that Marshall scored against Old Dominion last week? You're like, oh, man, that's not good. Well, they showed up when they needed to. On 4 of the final 5 last drives of the game, NC State stopped them. 2 of those were turnovers, and it was in a moment where you had it 1-2 score game, and it was a crucial moment of that game. The defense really buckled down, and hey, we say it after every single game. Peyton Wilson, wow, just continuing to lead the team on and off the field. Davin Vann, he's just the way he strains on the field, you can't praise him enough. That forced fumble, it's like the 5th or 6th time I've noticed him after the catch, he records a tackle, forces a fumble, and like, oh my gosh, he's just so impressive in every phase of the game. All right, at this point of the show, usually every week, we give our turning point of the game. Noah, just at what point were you like, all right, this game is turning for the better. I feel good about where NC State is headed at this point?
It really comes when NC State wasn't even in the lead. It was a close game at the point. So MJ Moore starts off 1 for 7, 2 interceptions. Next 6 passes he completes. Touchdown in there to Trent Penix. That is where I think the game turned, showing that MJ Morris could rebound from a bad start. Because a bad start can snowball, especially with a young quarterback. 1 for 7, your confidence is shot. Game over. He didn't have that at all. There was no sulking on the field after 2 interceptions. He wasn't, letting that affect him. And it paid off, right? He comes down, finishes the game with 265 yards, 4 touchdowns. Did it 3 interceptions, but 4 touchdowns I think outweighs the 3 interceptions for sure. Career high in both yards and in touchdown passes. I think that's the turning point, and the offense kind of clicking at that point too, and really showed that they could play a shootout kind of game, which honestly, coming into the game, if you had asked me if Marshall puts up 40 points, does NC State win the game? I would have said no. I didn't think that the offense had enough to get in a shootout. Prove me wrong there, and wins 48-41. So that was my turning point in the game.
Yeah, for me, it's the third quarter, just as a whole. Because if you look at it on Saturday, when it rained, it poured for NC State's offense, right? When they scored back-to-back touchdowns in the second quarter. In the third quarter and into the fourth quarter, they scored 3 straight times, and then they scored on back-to-back possessions within a minute of each other in the fourth quarter there. So great just building upon established success, right? When they got a little momentum, they kept it going. That momentum totally went away in the last half of the second quarter, right? Their final 4 drives of that quarter were a total of 11 plays. They picked up their final 3 drives of the first half, and then the first drive of the third quarter. So 11 plays, they pick up a total of 12 yards on those possessions. So it's just an awful start, right? Those are 4 really bad drives. But once again, MJ Morris and the rest of that offense didn't rattle them. The turning point was the following 6-play, 58-yard drive that ended in a touchdown. Then they come back, 2-play, 68 yards, touchdown. And then they follow that up with a 5-play, 45-yard field goal drive to really establish themselves in this game. Just great stretch by the offense. It's exactly what you want to see. It's the poise and production that we did not see from this unit, that side of the ball, until the Marshall game. All right. Now, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to give out some game balls and kind of take a look towards the upcoming game against Duke. Before we do that, though, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Game Time. The Game Time is a ticket buying and selling marketplace. Whether you're looking for concert tickets to the next NC State football game, a Hurricanes hockey game, whatever you're looking for, the Game Time app has it. You can find it on any app store if you just search up Game Time. Or you can go to gametime.co on your web browser. It's not .com, it's gametime.co. So just check it out there. I love the app. I use it. If my favorite part of it is when you go and you look at it, you can see exactly where you'd be sitting. Usually, you have to open up a separate window, search out, what's the view from this seat? You don't have to do that with the Game Time app. Here's a look at the view from the UNC-NC State game in November. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see I'm holding up my phone, and you can see exactly where you'd be sitting when you click on a ticket. It's a really cool feature. If you go and check it out, go to the app, go check it out in a web browser, and use code all caps Wolfpack. You get $20 off your first purchase. So there you go. They they have the best deals listed at the top, and then they sort the rest by price. So whether you're looking for the best value or just the cheapest ticket to get in the building, it's all there. So go check it out. It's Game Time, and just a shout out to them. Thank you for sponsoring our show. All right, Noah, let's dive into it. We've talked about our standout players, but we're just going to heap some more praise on them. Your first game ball, Noah.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Trent Penix. He is a guy that played really well. And it seems that anytime him and MJ Morris can get connected, they play well together. Last year in 3 games, I have the stat right here. They combined for 6 receptions, 86 yards, 2 touchdowns in 3 games. A year ago, 3 receptions, 99 yards, 2 touchdowns. Seems like they picked up where they left off. This is a connection that's special. NC State hadn't used the tight end much the entire season coming into the Marshall game. Granted, there were some injuries, banged up, things weren't really working there. But Penix is back. He's healthy. He's going. And he seems to be MJ Morris's, one of his favorite targets. Not his favorite one. I'm sure you're going to pick him for a game ball. But Trent Penix can find the opening in the defense. He did that. Both of his touchdown receptions, he was wide open. He was great route run, great play call. I know people like to criticize play calling, but you also have to call it out when it works. Takes a deep shot after that turnover, as you said, touchdown. Then later in the game, it's 62 or 63-yard touchdown pass as well. So that's my game ball number 1. Trent Penix, best game of the season so far to him, and he more than surpassed his yearly total of yards. He almost passed the amount of receiving yards he had a year ago. 111 a year ago, 99 yesterday. Good showing from the tight end.
Yeah, it was great to see that. I mean, Trent's been here for 6 years, and he's just a great member of the Wolfpack. He's a leader on this team, and just to see him finally, he's healthy, he's got some momentum going. I'm excited to see how he plays for the rest of the season. I'm giving out my first one to Robert Kennedy, someone who arrived on campus this year, but oh my gosh, I don't think many people expected him to have the impact he's had this season. He came in and he had to live up to a high bar. Tyler Baker-Williams was a great nickel for this team for years. And now he's off to professional football, and Robert Kennedy came in and just took up where he left off. And he had 2 forced turnovers. He had the forced fumble and fumble recovery where he was just so close to almost just taking it back for a touchdown too. Would have been his 2nd defensive touchdown of the year. And he's doing all of this while, kind of just locking down his slot. He's not giving up many big plays. He actually gave up a touchdown against Marshall on a well-thrown ball. But and it was clear he definitely wasn't satisfied with his performance. You could tell during the post-game press conference, even though he had 2 game-changing turnovers, including a nice interception in the fourth quarter, he was not satisfied. And that type of mentality has just lended itself really well to success this year. And he's been just one of the most impactful transfers on this team. So it's been cool to see that. You have 2 solid cornerbacks in Aiden White and Shaheem Battle. And, teams might want to go after their slot receiver to kind of, offset the advantage NC State has on the boundaries. And they can't because Robert Kennedy's locking it up. So hats off to him. Just a great performance. Noah, do you have another game ball you'd like to give out today?
Yeah, I do. And, it's the obvious one. Kevin Concepcion, another solid showing from him. 8 catches, 102 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not, it's the most receptions in a game. Ties his career high in touchdowns in a game. There's not the yards, though. 102. Take it, though. Pop passing worked well. Made him kind of a running back. Got him a ton of receiving yards, though. A ton of yak. 87 yards after the catch. Takes it. He's fast. Got to get him involved. Keep him involved in the offense moving forward. Pop passes are going to be on film now. Duke knows they're coming. I still think he's talented enough to make it work, even though Duke's knowing they're coming. I don't think they're going to run it as often as they did against Marshall, just because, but you can pull it out and use it. So he's a guy that, freshman that's playing like a senior. You talked about that earlier, just ball running. I think overall, he's a freshman playing like a senior. He's not intimidated by the situation. He knows he's, the top receiver on this team, and he's playing like it. And I think that is the most important thing about him, is that not only does he show up and play, but I think he has that mindset of, he wants to be the best on the field, and he's shown it so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's putting himself in a position where, you don't want to put too much pressure on him, but he could be one of the Wolfpack greats at the rate he's on. This production from a freshman hasn't happened in a long time in the Wolfpack receiver room. And like you said, he just has the mentality to boot too. He's a humble guy. After the game, he just talk about how, he plays for his family, he plays for his brother, and credited God. And, he's going to keep working. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be a concern. That kid works really hard. MJ Moore said after the game, right, that they put in work after practice all the time, and that's why their connection looks so strong, right? They're on the practice field after workouts, just putting in that work, establishing a bond together, and now that's a connection that Wolfpack fans could look forward to for the next however many years, right? This could be a years-long connection between 2 really talented players. I'm going to kind of go off the grid here for my last game ball. I'm going to give it to Anthony Carter Jr., the offensive guard for NC State, who, he slid over to left guard, I believe, against Marshall, and he looked good. He played, he played all 66 snaps, and per PFF, he finished with a 86.1 pass blocking grade. He's had some rough games this year, so it's just cool to see him come in and against a Marshall front that's really solid. Like this is a legitimate pass rush that they averaged 4 sacks a game coming into this matchup, and NC State held them to 2. And it wasn't like, I feel like their sack numbers have been a little low because Brennan Armstrong was extending plays so much, just with his legs, whether he was scrambling or just running outside the pocket and delivering passes. I thought it was just a clean pocket for a lot of the game against Marshall, and Anthony Carter Jr. was a big part of that. Just want to give some props to him after the game, and also wanted to plug Noah has a full game balls article on the site. He went in depth on a few standout performances, so go check that out on thewolfpacker.com as well. All right, before we move on, and I don't think we didn't give Peyton Wilson a game ball, but shoot, I mean, we can read off his stats. It was another standout performance for him: 14 tackles, 6 solo, 1 sack, and a quarterback hurry, and just continues to impact the game on every single play, regardless of where he is on the field. I think the thing he impressed me with the most was after the game. After, during the game, they put in Brennan Armstrong for a couple plays, right? Everyone saw it in the red zone. In the fans, it was met with a chorus of boos. Fans might say they were booing the coaching staff. Either way, you have to imagine how Brennan Armstrong felt in that moment. It's not right. And we were both kind of disgusted by it during the game. And after the game, Peyton Wilson expressed that he was too. He finished his press conference, walked off the podium, and came back and implored Wolfpack fans to exercise compassion. Imagine if that's your kid getting booed by a packed stadium of home fans. You gain nothing by booing your own players. I'm not sure what NC State fans thought they were going to accomplish there. And, even if you thought you were booing the coach's decision, just know that Brennan's feeling that. That's hurting Brennan. That's hurting Brennan after, Noah, if you want to talk about just the way he's handled this quarterback change. So, Noah, just any thoughts you have on that whole situation and how Wilson handled it after the game?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, a lot of people were saying they were booing the coaching staff, which if they were, in their point of view, the way that a lot of people in the stadium and a lot of people and basically everybody on the field interpreted it as was they're booing Brennan Armstrong. Because when MJ Morris came back in 2 plays later, a big cheer happened. So I don't know why you cheer play calling if you're booing play calling 2 plays ago and there was no play called yet. They just put him back in. So yeah, I mean, Brennan Armstrong has handled this week so well. This is probably the lowest point of his career in college football. He's in his 6th year, has been the guy. He was in a Heisman conversation a couple years ago at Virginia. Comes to NC State. It doesn't work out, which doesn't. It's like things happen. It doesn't work. It's fine. And what does he do? He could have just quit mentally and just said, "I'm done. It's my football, at NC State's done." But no, he turned around, became a resource for MJ Morris, became a resource for this team. And earlier this week is sitting in an offensive meeting and turns around to the offense and says, "Hey, go play your butts off for MJ." Like he put a lot of support toward a sophomore quarterback. And so I think, meeting him with booze is not the answer. I wrote a column about it and talked about how these captains are really supporting each other. And Peyton Wilson's, unprompted speech he came back and gave showed that this team cares about each other. MJ Morris had talked about it, how they all care and they all support each other. Well, this is living proof of how much they care about each other, even if things aren't going well in the field. These are guys that are going to be, lifelong friends and things like that after. So just shows what Dave Doran's built at NC State, where a guy can come in for 1 year. Obviously, maybe the relationships aren't as tight. That was something that Dave Doran talked about, where MJ's built these relationships with receivers in the offense. But they've taken it to Brennan Armstrong. He was voted a captain before the year. They're still supporting him, even though things didn't go well on the field with him for some of it. So I think it says a lot about this team, and hopefully the NC State fan base, listens to Peyton Wilson. I'm sure Dave Doran will talk about it in his press conference tomorrow. He didn't mention it, wasn't asked about it, and I'm pretty sure he's going to be happy to hear, Peyton Wilson's, response and his unprompted way of really stepping up to the plate and supporting his teammate.
Absolutely. And just, another example of how well Peyton Wilson is leading this team. All right. So let's look forward a little bit, Noah, because NC State has put itself in a pretty exciting spot, right? You're 4-2. You have a game against Duke coming up where Riley Leonard, there's been reports that he has a high ankle sprain. That would make it difficult for him to play against the Wolfpack. So you have Duke coming off of a bye week. They have a full week off to, install a game plan without Riley Leonard. So they're going to be ready. But that without your future NFL potential first round pick quarterback, that becomes a winnable game for NC State on the road. And then it's bye week and then Clemson. So you're looking at potential. You can come in and be 5-2 with a huge home game against Clemson, maybe a primetime setting at Carter Finley Stadium. So that's an exciting prospect. This win was just huge on so many levels for the course of the season. But Noah, just coming off of this victory for the Wolfpack, just a vibe check for the season. How's your gut feeling about the Wolfpack's 2023 campaign?
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday. I think after the game in the press box, you mentioned it at the beginning. 4-2 is a lot better, situation to be than 3-3. One, optically, it's a pretty number to look at. 4-2 is a lot better looking than 3-3. And two, I think the team has confidence. 4 wins through the first 6 weeks, playing good football. They're playing quality teams. VMI is the only game you can be like, okay, well, it's VMI. It's an FCS team. You're supposed to win the game. All the other teams are pretty quality teams. UConn, who even though they're having a down year, they were really good a year ago. They're starting to put it together now, and you just run through the rest of them. I mean, when you look at this win over Marshall, it's a quality team in the Sun Belt Conference. They were undefeated, one of 22 teams that entered the weekend undefeated in college football of 133. So it's a big win there. So I think vibe check momentum is building, and that's something you want to see, especially going to Duke next week, 8:00 in Durham. Without probably Riley Leonard. They say he's out for a couple weeks. They had a bye week this week, so we don't know what the quarterback situation is going to look like at a Duke. They've got a couple backups that both have played this year, so we'll see which one to go with. If they can build momentum off the win at Marshall, go to Duke and pull that one out, I think the NC State fan base will like the situation they'll be in going into the bye week. And, obviously Clemson, Miami coming up, and Miami looks like a winnable game now too after their fourth quarter collapse yesterday. So NC State, while they may not be living to some people's expectations through the first 6 weeks, maybe you can win. That's a winnable game against Louisville. You're feeling really good since they beat Notre Dame. Notre Dame, they were hanging with them for a while. So NC State seems to be like, they're a few plays away from being, 6-0 if you really think about it. And so I think that this is a good spot to be in, and we'll see how they can translate this momentum going to Duke and how MJ Morris can, take that step. Because we talked about, beginning of the year, you're going to grow the most between week 1 and week 2 as a team. But now MJ Morris, this is week 1 and week 2 for him. So we'll see how much he can grow between that and see, what this offense looks like in Durham.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to push back a little bit just on, I felt like this was their first win against a good team, to be honest. You look at UVA and UConn, they're combined 2-10 on the season. So they played some
wins.
They played some good football, but I wanted to see it done against a solid FBS opponent. And Marshall is a solid FBS opponent. No, the Sun Belt better than just about anybody. They were 4-0 on the season. You played some impressive game, beat a Power 5 team. So you come in there, you put together an impressive performance, and that was a very reassuring game for me, for NC State. I think that should be a confidence builder because, you played a solid game, a great game defensively against a Louisville team that just took down Notre Dame at home. So, if you put together the offensive performance from Marshall and you pair that with the confidence that the defense should have from the game against Louisville, then you're kind of cooking with gas. And we'll see where it goes from there. But I'm kind of with you. I feel a lot more optimistic about the course of the season after the Marshall game. We'll see how it goes against Duke. If they can win that one, then I think the season is officially fully back on track, and you're in the running for the ACC again at that point. So we'll see what happens. We'll be back later this week to fully break down the matchup against the Blue Devils. It'll be a fun one. It's a rivalry game that doesn't get played often. So it'll be cool to, hit the road to Durham, see how the Wolfpack plays on that primetime stage. All right. My name is Ethan McDowell. I'm joined as I am, twice a week by Noah Fleischman. And check us out on the wolfpacker.com. $1 to subscribe. Check out the Game Time app. Thank you for sponsoring our podcast, and we will see you in a few days. Thanks for watching.